and the Democratic Alliance marching to the office of the Gauteng Education MEC, Panyaza Lesufi. This is against the BELA Bill, which is currently underway. The Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, it proposes that the changes to sections of the South African Schools Act, and these include the stricter rules on pupils' attendance, admissions and language policies. Now, our reporter Mbali Thethani is monitoring that particular protest for us, or the march to the MEC's office. Mbali, good morning to you. So, a few members of the Democratic Alliance, a few leaders, in fact, because I know those faces behind you long enough, having attended the media briefings. So what is the major concern for the DA here? Is it to preserve Afrikaans as a medium of instruction?
That is a very important question you are asking, Colin. Of course, we know that the DA has taken their picket just outside the offices of the Gauteng Education Department. I'm just going to ask my colleague Polani just to show you the amount of people who are here taking part in this picket on the doorstep of the Gauteng Education Department, and many of them holding those placards, even some saying, keep out politics, well, keep politics out of our schools, and basically bemoaning that issue around the BELA Act. And of course, we know that it is the Basic Education Law Amendment Act. And basically, what the DA is saying is that this act is indeed stripping off the likes of SGBs from taking important decisions in schools, especially pertaining to languages, especially languages of the mother tongue. But giving us a brief background in terms of why is the DA here today, we are joined by Kume Ramulefe, is indeed the DA's MEC, or rather the shadow MEC for education in Gauteng. Kume, you have brought this protest. You are saying that this is an interference when it comes to mother tongue languages in schools in Gauteng.
Yeah, indeed. We believe that the BELA Bill is going to interfere or take away powers from school governing bodies, which we don't think is the right thing. So we want to ensure that school governing bodies continue to deal with matters relating to admission, relating to languages, and good governance when it comes to our schools. But this proposal, it's actually going to take away their powers, and then they will be located to the MEC and the head of department. So we are saying it can't be right. Then also, when you look at the issue of languages, the department has dismally failed to promote and advance all languages, especially focusing on indigenous languages. If you check here in Gauteng, we've got 1,867 schools which the language of learning and teaching is English. Then you have got 125 schools which language of teaching is Afrikaans. Then 96 schools, it's a medium language of teaching is English and Afrikaans. So you ask yourself, where is Chivenda, where is Isistonga, where is Isindebele, where is Isizulu? So we are saying we need to focus and invest in all these other indigenous languages, so that instead of throwing a wedge against either Afrikaans and push everyone to do English, we need to develop and promote all these other languages. There's a number of research which pointed to us to say, if you can be taught with your mother tongue language, it becomes much easier to master the subject content in learning areas. But what we have noticed, many of our learners, they are mastering English as language of proficiency, and that is where it ends. So rather than actual content. And we are saying we need to move away from that, so that we should not think that English is the only language, especially where many of our people are preferring to do their indigenous languages. But then, because there's no space, the resources are not made available for them, they end up not pursuing their languages.
Kume, one would ask, is this a fight to protect mother tongue education, or is this a fight to protect Afrikaans?
No, it's not really protecting Afrikaans per se. As I've said, if you only have 125 schools which are using Afrikaans as a language of learning and teaching, so that on its own tells you that it's a problem. So we are saying, can we start promoting all the other languages? Let's develop them. Let's invest in these languages so that all of them are equally promoted and utilized in our schools. Because we can't afford to blame apartheid and say apartheid only given us an opportunity to use Afrikaans. What about other languages? We've got the resources which we need to utilize and invest deeply in all these other languages. So that is why we are here. We're saying, let's make sure that we start from today to invest more in all our indigenous languages so that we should not feel ashamed if you go to school and you say, I want to choose Chivenda as a medium of instruction for my children rather than just as an additional home language. So we are saying to the department, especially because knowing that Panyaza is a huge proponent of Afrikaans in areas where he is saying schools which are using Afrikaans and they've been throwing a wedge. But we are saying that's not really an Afrikaans war. We are saying let's promote all our languages, and we are also saying locate all the responsibilities and powers to school governing bodies.
We've seen a statement being released by the Gauteng Education Department and saying that this picket is actually to mislead, people living in this province. Are you misleading people of Gauteng?
Not at all. We're actually talking about the document which is already out there, and there are a number of education stakeholders who already made their own comments. Your Section 27, your Equal Education, and other, school governing bodies, they raise concern regarding the same bill. And we're saying it's not true. We are actually putting the facts on the table. One example, we're saying, making a grade R compulsory, which we're saying we support the idea. But how do you make it compulsory when you know that the standard and norms are not really equal? You've got practitioners who are still being paid, stipends. On the other side, some of them are still being taught, at the back of the, back rooms. Why you not provide, necessary resources and say, here we are, we've already provided necessary resources, then we can make it compulsory. Because when you make it compulsory, you must be able to enforce it. You can't say it's compulsory, but then you can't even provide access. Like grade R, you still need to pay. Whether it's a no-fee school, you still need to have transportation, you still need to have nutrition. But then when you start your grade 1, those services are available for free, but for grade R they are not available for free. So when you make it compulsory, it means that you are denying those learners opportunity to access them.
Thank you very much. Of course, that is Kume Ramulefede, of course, saying that this is an overall protest and picket for the issues around being taught in your own mother tongue. Of course, saying that it is not just a picket that is focusing on Afrikaans, but it's going to be quite interesting to also hear what Helen Ziller has to say. And of course, you would have spotted her. She literally just arrived and is also participating in this picket. There are also some other leaders of the DA. There's the youth leader as well, Nicholas Nyati, who's also arrived, and he's participating in this picket. But we know that we have seen that statement, Toli, coming out from the Education Department here in Gauteng, saying that this picket is misleading the public in terms of what it actually aims to do. So we will be hearing from Panyaza Lesufi himself much later on today in terms of, what actually pertains to this bill that they want passed.
Mbali Thethani, thank you very much. Live for us from outside the offices of the MEC of Gauteng's Education Department.